Welcome, dear learners. Today we are going to discuss about Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974. So, the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act was enacted in 1974 to provide for the prevention and control of water pollution and for the maintenance and restoring the wholesomeness of the water in country. This act is for the prevention and control of water pollution and the maintenance and restoring the wholesomeness of water for establishment with a will to carry out purpose that have been, for the aforesaid for of the boards for the prevention and control of water pollution. So this act was basically amended in 1988 after its enactment in 1974. Then in 1977, the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution (CES) Act, basically to provide levy and collection of cess on water consumed by persons operating or carrying on certain types of industrial activities. So this cess is collect with the view to augment the resources of the central board and state pollution control boards for the prevention and control of water pollution constituted under the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974. And at the latest, this act was amended in 2003. So what are the main objectives of this act? Why this act has been established? Basically, to provide for the prevention and control of water pollution and maintaining the or restoring the wholesomeness of the environment. So it is basically the maintenance of quality of both surface as well as underground water. Surface and underground water are the main sources of the water that are consumed by various sectors, like the major consuming sector is agriculture, then industry and domestic sectors. Then the second objective of this act is to establish central and state pollution control boards for the prevention and control of water pollution. Basically, these boards, they work in their jurisdictions. For example, state pollution control boards work in the prescribed states, and the central is the central coordinating board, which coordinates with the state pollution control boards for the prevention and control of water pollution. Then the another objective is to provide for conferring on assigning to such boards powers and functions relating to and for matters connected therewith, and then to provide for the penalties and contraventions of the provision of act. And last one is to establish center and state water testing laboratories that are centrally or at the state level accredited by the various accrediting agencies like the state pollution control boards. So to enable the boards to access the extent of pollution, lay down the standards, and establish guilt and default. So these were the main objectives of the Water Pollution and Prevention and Pollution Control of Pollution Act 1974. So in Act there are various chapters from 1 to 8, and various chapters are dealing on various criterias. So the arrangement of sections is from 1 to 64 between the various chapters. For example, for chapter 1 is dealing with the preliminary, basically the definitions, the words which have been used in the act have been discussed under two sections, section 1 and 2. The chapter second discusses about the central and state pollution control boards for the prevention and control of water pollution from section 3 to 12. There are various activities and powers that have been discussed under these sections. And in chapter 3, there have been provisions for joint boards from chapter 13 to 15, basically, the joint boards between the central and state pollution control boards. And in chapter 4, the powers and the functions of the boards have been framed under the section 16 and 18, 16 to 18. And chapter 5 discusses about the prevention and control of water pollution from section 19 to 33. And various funds, accounts, audits that are carried out have been discussed in chapter 6 under section 34 to 40. And the penalties and the procedures have been framed under the section 7, under the chapter 7, under the section 41 and 50, 41 to 50. And miscellaneous other activities that have been discussed in the chapter 8 under section 51 to 64. So these were the arrangements of the sections under the Water Pollution Control Act 1974. So, what is all about this Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act? It is basically a prohibition of disposal of polluting matter to a stream or a well or a river or a sewer or on land is the key to the regulatory system under the act. Basically, there is a prohibition for disposal of certain kind of the sewer lines or the wastewater into the streams, wells. So here in streams and wells, it discusses about both surface as well as groundwater. And then no person shall knowingly cause or permit poisonous and noxious or polluting matter to enter the stream or well or sewer land. So this is self-explanatory. There is the prohibition and there is kind of the limitation for any person to discharge such kind of pollutants into the water streams. And its violation is against public interest because the water is a public property and it will attract penalty and consequence mens rea, and knowledge about the said offense or are important. Basically, it can lead to the criminal proceedings if one violates. Maybe it is an individual or an industry that violates this act. And but the prohibition is not absolute. It's not like we cannot discharge the wastewater into the streams, but there are some procedures how to do. So the law allows to discharge the pollutants into the water after their treatment. So the treated wastewater, there are certain criteria that certain parameters in the water should not exceed the limits that have been framed by the state pollution control boards or central pollution control boards. For example, the criteria may be chemical oxygen demand, biological oxygen demand, certain chemicals or heavy metals that should not be more than the prescribed limit. It is different for the industrial wastewater and the domestic wastewater. And also it is different where we are going to discharge this wastewater, whether we are going to discharge into the land or water body or in any other rushing water bodies. So this also, in this act, no person without obtaining the consent from the state boards established under the act, basically the boards which have been established under the Water Act, that is state pollution control boards, no person will establish any kind of industry without obtaining consent from such boards, which are likely to discharge sewage and trade effluents. For example, if we are going to establish a tannery that creates the discharge, that creates the wastewater, that generates the wastewater, and this wastewater goes to the receiving water bodies. So, for establishing the tanneries or certain kind of industries which generate the wastewater should get consent from the state pollution control boards. Otherwise, they are doing a violation to the Water Act. And an application for obtaining consent for certain consent of the boards have been made by the person who intends to the establishment of industry. So this consent is to be taken by the person, concerned person, who is intending to create or establish the any kind of the industry or treatment plant. So the violation of this may lead the withdrawal of consent and prosecution. So if any person violates the certain parameters and he or she discharges the wastewater which has parameters more than the prescribed limit under this act can lead to the withdrawal of the consent from the boards and also can lead to the criminal proceedings, that is the prosecution against such industries and person or any kind of operation of an industry. So how this act works? So first is we should understand that the water is a state subject. So all the, I mean, the rules and regulations that have to be executed by the state government or state pollution control boards. So this has been discussed under the Schedule 1 and Schedule, on Schedule 7 of the Constitution of India, Entry 17, and therefore only state governments have powers to make enactment or rules or to establish pollution control boards for the prevention and control of pollution on that in that state. So, for example, if the state of West Bengal is had only powers to create the pollution control boards, which can control the pollution and prevention of the pollution only within the limits, political limits of the West Bengal state. So these boards have no work or they have no jurisdiction in other states. So the parliament have had no powers to enact legislation or rules or to establish pollution control boards on such matter unless desired by two or more states, enabling the parliament to make laws for the states. That is discussed under the article 252. So if more than two states approach the parliament, then only the parliament can make the rules for the state pollution control boards or for the state for establishing the state pollution control boards. So the second one of this part is the parliament can also legislate the how the parliament will get the powers. First is when more than two states will approach the parliament. Second is if the parliament can only make the rules or establish the pollution control boards with respect to water in the state in the national interest if Rajya Sabha decided not less than by two-third majority of the present and voting. If it get two-third majority in the Rajya Sabha, then only they can enact the rules for the State Pollution Control Board under the Article 249. So also the parliament can legislate or make rules or establish pollution control boards with respect to the water in the state if proclamation of emergency is in operation in the said state. For example, if there is an emergency in the state of Haryana, then the parliament has the power to establish pollution control boards in Haryana under the Article 250 only in case of emergency. In case of emergency, in case of there is two-third majority in Rajya Sabha, and if more than two states approach, then only the parliament has right to make the I mean the rules or establish pollution control board in the states. So, what are the members of the Central Pollution Control Board? Basically, this the number of members have been discussed under the Section 3, in which it is discussed that there are 17 members. One is the full-time chairman that is nominated by the central government, having special knowledge or practical experience of matters related to environmental protection, knowledge or experience in administering institution dealing with the matters of environmental protection. So for first one is uh, the chairman. So there is the scheme 1 plus 5 plus 5 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. So the first one is the chairman. The five officials named, nominated by the central government to be represent the central government. So five officials will be representing the central government, and then other five officials nominated by the central government from amongst the members of state boards. So the central government can nominate five members from the state boards, of whom two shall be local authorities functioning within that states. So the three should be non-official nominated by the central government, representing the interest of agriculture, fishery, industry, trade, other interests. It ought to be represented in the opinion of the central government. Basically, the non-officials that are dealing with the various kinds of departments like agriculture, fishery, that are directly or indirectly related to the water. So here it completes the scheme 1 plus 5 plus 5 plus 3, and the other two nominated are nominated by the central government to represent the companies or corporates which are owned, controlled, and managed by the central government. So these are the 1 plus 5 plus 5, then it comes 14 members, 14, 15, and 16, and one is the member secretary. Member secretary is appointed by the central government. It is a full-time, possessing qualification, knowledge, and experience of scientific engineering or management aspects of pollution control. So these all members are nominated by the central government for the central pollution control boards. So you should remember the scheme 1 plus 5 plus 5 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. So section 3 of the Water Pollution and Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, this gives this discusses the members of the pollution control board, central pollution control board. Now, the state pollution control boards, the section 2 plus section 4 for the establishment by the state government by notifying the official gazette to exercise the functions and powers assigned to it. Basically, these two sections gives the powers to the pollution control board. That powers are given to the state pollution control board. So here also the members of the boards are the 17 members, 1 plus 5 plus 5 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. So the first one is that is discussed up under the section 14, section 4 of the pollution act, water pollution act. So the first one is the chairman that is nominated by the state government having special knowledge. Same there in the Central Pollution Control Act, Board Act was in Central Pollution Control Board. It was the central government that nominated the chairman. Here is it is the state government which nominates the chairman, which has special knowledge and practical experience of the matter relating to the environmental protection and knowledge, experience in administrating the institution dealing with the matters of environmental protection. Then, five members are the official nominated by the state government that represents the government basically, and the five officials nominated by the state government from the local authorities function within the state that also represents the state government, and the three non-official nominated by this that are the members or basically having the experience in agriculture, fishery, same like in the Central Pollution Control Board. Here also in State Pollution Control Board, same kind of, but here in central there is a central government who nominates. Here it is a state government, and the last two are nominated by the are from the companies or corporates, and the member secretary that is appointed by the state government is a full-time possessing the qualification, knowledge, experience on scientific engineering, same like in the Central Pollution Control Board. So we have discussed the members of the Central Pollution Control Board. Now, the functioning of this Central Pollution Control Board under Section 16, the main function is to promote cleanliness of the streams and wells in different areas of the states. So it's basically a coordinating agency that coordinates the activities between various state pollution control boards. Then other activities are to advise central government on any matter concerning to the prevention and control of water pollution, Then it coordinates the activities of state boards and resolve disputes among them. There are various disputes regarding the water, for example, water sharing and water pollution. And then it provides technical assistance and guidance to the state boards carrying out and sponsor investigation and research relating to the problems of water pollution, prevention, control, abatement of water pollution. So these are all the activities that the functions basically of the CPCB. Further, it plans and organizes training of person engaged or to be engaged in programs for the prevention, control, and abatement of water pollution on such terms and conditions as the central board may specify. Basically, it is a discretionary power of the central board, what terms and conditions it may train or engage the persons for the prevention and control of water pollution. And it also organizes through mass media a comprehensive program regarding prevention and control of pollution. Basically, on the national level, it coordinates the various activities that directly or indirectly leads for the prevention and control of the water pollution. And it also have the power to collect, compile, and publish the technical and statistical data relating to the water pollution and measures devised for its effective prevention and control. Through it have the annuals. It publishes the annuals like every year reports, codes, guidelines relating to treatment, disposal of sewage. So there are n number of activities regarding to the compilation and publishing of the data. Besides this, it also lay down, modify, and annul in consultation with the state government for the concern the standards for the streams. Basically, the standards that for the various parameters that have to be framed, and it frames in consultation with the state governments. So it coordinates with the state government, and it plans and calls to the execution nationwide awareness programs regarding the prevention and control of water pollution, and performs other activities that may be prescribed in the law. So fixing the standards and the criteria. So what should it is a standard? Standard is a defined as a plan that established by a central or government authority as a program of prevention and control of water pollution. Standard is basically various kinds of parameters. uh, the this parameter should be on this level in the water, and if that is more than that, it is standard is less, so it should be treated. So criteria means a scientific requirement on which decision or judgment may be based concerning the suitability of water quality to support and designate use. Basically, there are the criteria of the water, like criteria A, B, C, D, and E. In each criteria, it gives certain parameters like what is the BOD, what is the total coliforms, like what is the the nitrate concentration. So it makes the criteria this kind of category, or this kind if the criteria of waters various parameters are in this range, so what kind of use uh, can be for what kind of use the water should be bringing in, for example for the swimming, for the bathing, for the navigation, for the irrigation. So there are various criterias, one A, B, C, D, and E. So thus it is important to lay down water quality standards and criteria. So all these criteria are fixed under this act. So in section 24 of this act, prohibition on use of any poisonous, noxious, or polluting matter into the stream or wells access to predetermined standard. Basically, if you can check my video on the water pollution, then I have mentioned the various kinds of the parameters that are present in the water, and the standards, like what kind of standards that has been prescribed by the CPCB, and also in comparison with the WHO. So, under this section, no person shall knowingly cause or be permitted or by causing the pollution to the water bodies, and this I have discussed earlier. And no person shall knowingly cause or permit any matter which may tend to impede or obstruct the flow of water, like the plastic kind of pollution into the water that obstruct the flow of water. And last one is the penalty. Under this act, the penalty under the section 43, penalty for the contravention of the provision, whoever contravenes the provision of section 24 shall be punishable with the imprisonment of for the term which shall not be less than 1 year or and 6 months, but which may be extended to 6 years and with fine. So these are the kind of punishments. And other section 45A, penalty for contravention of the provision of this act, whoever contravenes any provision of act fails to comply with any order or direction given under this act shall be punishable with imprisonment which may extend to 3 months or fine which may extend up to 10,000 or both. So it depends upon the what kind of the grievance, what kind of the severity or seriousness of the pollution is caused by any person. It can bring such kind of penalties, it may be 3 months or 10,000 fine or both. So it depends upon, like, it may be industry or it may be any households. So these were all the various kinds of the functions and activities. I hope you all enjoy this lecture. Thank you.